So everyone's peak Bitcoin versus ETH right now. But then there's the magic of the ETF, and people are so predictable. So right now, everyone's front running the Bitcoin ETF. And exactly as you say, Ovi, the next thing that's going to happen, the moment that that is out, it'll be, the ETH ETF is coming.
Hey guys, welcome back to Everyday Finance. In this video, Raoul Pal discuss about Bitcoin and crypto. According to Raoul Pal, the risk curve is identical to that financial markets. The macroeconomic spring is similar to the crypto spring, in that it is typically driven by bonds in the credit markets, specifically treasury bonds, and in terms of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin consistently performs better at this stage. And then what happens as you begin to transition into late spring, which is when Raoul Pal believe we are now and where we go from here until summer to witness the alts rising. Indeed, and after that, we'll see we're currently at the base of that enormous Bitcoin wedge, receiving all of the DMAR signals and everything else that ought to be happening and starting to lead to the ETH outperformance, which Raoul Pal believe will occur only as a result of Ethereum's network effects due to the way in which it is built. In comparison to Bitcoin, which is currently everyone's peak Bitcoin versus Ethereum, but moreover, there's because of the ETF's power and how predictable humans are. Everyone's front-running the Bitcoin ETF and, as you correctly point out, OB, the next move that will take place. As soon as something is released, the ETF will arrive, and lots of things Raoul Pal discuss, so please watch the video to end. And like, share, subscribe our channel Everyday Finance. Thanks.
So the big picture here, so the macro picture is, and we all talked about this on the conversation we had with Real Vision recently, is like it's the same risk curve as the financial markets. Crypto spring is like spring in the macro economy. Generally, it's a bonds driven. In the credit markets will be treasury bonds. And in crypto, it's Bitcoin. So Bitcoin always outperforms at this point. And then what happens as you start to get into late spring, which is where I think we are now, where we transition towards summer, is you start to see the alts rising. Yep. And then we'll see, and we're right at the bottom of that massive ETH Bitcoin wedge. And we're getting all the DMARC signals and all of the things that we should be getting. That should start leading to the ETH outperformance, which I think will happen, but just because of the network effects of ETH, because of how it's constructed versus Bitcoin. So everyone's peak Bitcoin versus ETH right now. But then there's the magic of the ETF, and people are so predictable. So right now, everyone's front running the Bitcoin ETF. And exactly as you say, Ovi, the next thing that's going to happen, the moment that that is out, it'll be, the ETH ETF is coming.
Yep.
And all of that capital that was front running that will just be washed into the ETH trade, which will hypercharge that wedge and kicks off towards the summer, the crypto summer. So it's kind of like I'm wryly observing it because you kind of know how it's going to play out. Imran, the option guy from the UK who was on Real Vision yesterday on the Real Vision Daily Briefing, and he's saying what he's seeing is really interesting in the option market is Bitcoin options kind of open interest collapsed into this, but what we're seeing is the rise of call buying in ETH as the kind of hedge fund money and others are starting to think through exactly this phasing, and they're all starting to buy calls on ETH. So
that's interesting because I think there's one guy out there, isn't there, who's just sold a ton of calls on ETH, who's like pretty up against it right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we should see, I like to see those things too. You guys all know it when the market is like this, looking to go higher, and there's a massive call seller out there. What happens is it just forces this massive short covering of those positions or the covering of their delta, and it explodes through in price, which is actually what happened in Bitcoin. There was a bunch of calls out there that were short as well. So yeah, it's setting itself up perfectly for ETH poking everybody in the eye to say, don't forget about me.
Raoul Pal began examining the Solana chart's ratios between Solana and ETH in great detail and thought, hey, this is actually interesting. It seems like we're going to see I haven't displayed the longer-term chart, but Raoul Pal noticed that it resembles a wedge pattern, and Raoul Pal believed that this might be the token. And then Raoul Pal noticed that everyone is discussing it as the SAM coin goes down to 97 and a 50%. Raoul Pal been watching it endlessly since he think this is Ethereum from the previous cycle. And after that, Raoul Pal was wondering what story he was missing when was examining these lengthier term charts. Usually, Raoul Pal begin with a chart and then attempt and discover what in the world is happening. Raoul Pal saw the compressed NF. And Raoul Pal believed that to be a huge thing regarding ticketing and all of those use cases. You can see that it's a fast, reliable chain with a vibrant community, many builders, so you think, well, this is fantastic. These are excellent, high-quality people. And Toli is among the top people in the whole area. Let's back to the interview.
So, I had a very small position, that $180 position, that was a FOMO position at the time. But really, I started buying in June and October last year. And the reason being is I started looking a lot at the ratios between Solana and ETH, the Solana chart itself. And I started thinking, okay, this is actually interesting. This looks to me like we're going to see, I haven't shown the longer term chart, but it's like this wedge pattern. I thought, this looks like this might be the token. And then I see everybody talking about it as the SAM coin, blah, 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 down 97.5%. I'm like, this is Ethereum from the previous cycle. And so I've been watching it and watching it. I added and added. And then I've been looking at these longer term charts thinking, what is the story I'm missing? I often start with a chart and then try and figure out what the hell is going on. And look, I saw the compressed NFTs. I think that's a very, very big deal. It's all about, ticketing and all of those use cases. You can see, it's a good, fast chain, lots of community, lots of builders. So it's like, okay, this is great. They're good, high quality people. Tolly is one of the best people in the entire space, I think. But really, I was at Mainnet in New York a few weeks ago, and I heard Colleen Sullivan from Brevin Howard, is a friend of mine, talking about Fire Dancer. Just dropped into the conversation when she was on stage. I'm like, don't know what that is. I ignored it because she knows a lot more than me, so I just assumed it was something wonky. And then Tolly was on stage talking about Fire Dancer, and he dropped the thing, oh yeah, Jump Trading have been building this validator, and it's working out at somewhere between 600,000 and 1.2 million TPS. I was like, are you kidding me? So anyway, I went back and I was writing Global Macro Investor with Julian Bittle, and we were on some Zoom call just chatting about stuff, and we were looking at these Solana charts again, thinking, this is breaking out. What the hell is going on? So I went down the Fire Dancer rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh, okay. What is being built is like the new Solana. I asked Tolly about it publicly on Twitter. When's this coming? It's like, we think it's going to get on testnet by year end, mainnet by the summer. And it's like a total step change of anything that's ever happened in the space in terms of transaction speed and cost. And it increases the security of the Solana SVM as opposed to the Solana virtual machine. So at that point, I thought, the guys who are building at Jump Trading, their one KPI was what they try and build everything for is the speed of light, because as we know, high frequency trading uses fiber optic cables, and that is their one constraint: is how do we get to the speed of how close can we get to the speed of light to beat any competitors? And they said the problem is crypto can't operate at that transaction speed. So Twitter operates at 24,000 TPS. WhatsApp, all of that stuff, maybe 65,000 TPS. Visa's about 25,000 TPS. But high frequency trading exchanges, well, they need this kind of speed. So this is really, really a big deal. When I saw that, I'm like, this is it. I know this. I know that this can build not only narrative, but actually some other use cases.
I think I watched the interview of the guy who built it.
Yeah, amazing, right?
He works at Jump. He was like a quantum physicist or something. Like, he's not a trader
because it's speed of light. That's what he works for.
Yeah.
Which is why he's this quantum physicist or astrophysicist or whatever the hell he was. Smarter than us, anyway.